So tell me, viewer, do you ever wonder what choices in your life got you to the exact moment that you're at right now? Do you ever just ask, what did I do that led me to this exact moment in time? Because I'm questioning that right now. Hello everybody, my name is Christian, and as a part of my YouTube membership rewards, today I will be talking about none other than the IPC executive, Jade. Let's begin. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing down below. It would really help out, and I would really appreciate it. Also, I have a Discord server, which people keep yelling at me to plug, so hey, go check out the Discord server. With that said, back to the video. Dog, I'm not gonna lie, there is like the most annoying sound of all time going on outside my window right now, and I have no idea what it is. I'm not gonna get up, because that would require me to get up and actually go check when I'm trying to record. Oh my god, it stopped. Anyway, yeah, so Jade. This is a part of my YouTube membership rewards. If you go for the absolute highest tier of Aeon, you get to pick any character and I will make a video about them in this style. Similarly, you can also redeem 30,000 channel points on Twitch and I will do the exact same thing. Just gonna do a plug for that since a lot of people have been taking advantage of that recently, so, you know, figured it would be good to bring it up. So let's actually talk a little bit about Jade, because I will fully admit, Jade is a character I would not have made one of these videos about if I was not asked to. This is not because I dislike Jade. Okay, well, she's not my favorite character, however, I do just quite like her design, and not to mention, she is voiced by the incredible Faye Mata, who I absolutely love. She was Petra in Fire Emblem Three Houses, and she was awesome. So, I don't exactly have anything against Jade. My personal opinion of the character is that I was just never really impressed with her, per se. I thought that at the time when she came out, there were still better options available. Not to mention, Air Edition characters were not good at the time she came out. Pure Fiction had already come into existence, so she was going to be good in that regardless of anything else. But I just wasn't really a fan of what she had to offer. She didn't really work with any of the teams I had, so I ultimately decided to skip Jade and I got Firefly instead. Or vice versa, I got Firefly and decided to skip Jade. So this video is going to be a bit interesting just for that fact that I do not have a very good understanding of the character. I will probably ask for help in between like the little cuts here, so we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, I'm going to do the usual thing where I am going to go over the character's whole moveset. I'm going to tell you how all of Jade's stuff works. I'm going to give you my basic opinions on like Eidolons and all that and how the kit actually flows. And then we can talk about what I actually like about the character into how to build her. If you are somebody who already perfectly understands how Jade's moveset works in its totality, I would highly recommend skipping to this part of the video. It's going to save you some time and get you into the more interesting stuff for you personally. Otherwise, let's begin. Alright, so I've officially decided I don't feel like reading basic attacks anymore. They literally do not matter. I'm going to be so honest, guys. Basic attacks really do not matter unless they have a different variant of them. I think from now on, we might just start skipping basic attacks. Alright, so let's start with skill. Acquisition Surety. I believe I'm saying that right. I apologize if I'm not. So, I'm going to be honest, straight off rip, this skill is the most interesting part of Jade in my opinion. It is incredibly unique, it is something that has not been done very often, and it offers a very unique stat boost that is a little bit hard to actually make use of sometimes, but is still pretty good overall. Makes a single target ally become the deck collector, and increases their speed by 30, lasting for 3 turns. After a deck collector attacks, deals 1 instance of additional quantum damage equal to 25% of Jade's attack to each enemy target hit, and consumes the deck collector's HP by amount equal to 2% of their max HP. If Jade becomes the deck collector, she cannot gain the speed boost effect, and her attacks do not consume HP. When a deck collector exists on the field, Jade cannot use her skill, and at the start of Jade's every turn, the deck collector's duration reduces by 1. Oh, that was a doozy. Just to make sure we all understand, so when you skill an ally, they just get 30 flat speed. So if you're at 104 speed, you go to 134 just like that. So, speed boots, be damned. Who needs them? You got Jade, turning you into Sonic the fucking Hedgehog. This is also not to mention the HP drain on this, I got this wrong in a recent video, and I know people are already going to be blowing me up for that, but hey, oh well. This HP effect does actually happen every single time apparently, which I was unaware of. That is actually incredibly helpful for somebody like Blade, who constantly loves getting his HP snatched. Keep that in mind for later. Next up is her ultimate, Vow of the Deep. Deals quantum damage equal to 240% of Jade's attack to all enemies. At the same time, it enhances her follow-up attack, increasing the follow-up attack's damage multiplier by 80%. That is pretty good. That is a lot of additional damage percent if we're being honest. Like, additional 80% is really solid. I always personally like ultimates that kind of have multiple things going on, so you get a flat attack, and then you also get something out of it, like you get an enhancement or something. So, honestly, I really like how this is formatted. This is pretty cool. Next up, talent. Fang of Flare Flaying. After Jade or an ally that had become the deck collector attacks, Jade gains 1 charge for each enemy target attacked. When the charge reaches 8, consume 8 charges to launch follow-up attack 1 time, dealing quantum damage equal to 120% of Jade's attack to all enemies. This follow-up attack does not generate charge. When launching her talent's follow-up attack, Jade immediately gains 5 stacks of pawned asset, with each stack increasing her crit damage by 2.4%. This effect can stack up to 50 times. I know some of you may not be great at math, but you can just take off the 0.4% if you want. You get 100 crit damage by getting the max amount of pawned asset. That is really, really good. For an exact number, it is 120%, which that's better, so hey, amazing. Either way, this is actually really cool, and I love that a talent like this exists in the game, and we've been seeing it more often recently. It's just very fun that you are getting rewarded for using your primary mechanic to its fullest ability, and I really like things like this that kind of make building your character a lot easier, because you're almost guaranteed to get the 50 stacks fairly easily as a fight goes on, so it's really not a huge commitment either. This is super unique. I really like this. Also, once again, it pairs super well with the ultimate, so you get a massively increased follow-up attack damage. Pretty good overall. I really like it. Let's now scroll down to major traces. So, A2, Reverse Repo. When enemy targets enter combat, Jade gains 1 stack of pawned asset. When a deck collector ally turn starts, Jade additionally gains 3 stacks of pawned asset. So, if you are in something like Pure Fiction per se, you are going to get so many stack of pawned assets literally immediately. Or if you're running Jade, the main DPS, and then an action advancer, you are once again going to get so many stacks of pawned asset. Because if you're running a traditional 135, 134 setup, so your DPS is going to go, that's 3 stacks. Your action advancer is going to set them up to go again. You're going to get another 3 stacks, and then you're probably also going to get your talent, which is then 5 stacks. So you're already getting 11 stacks within like 3 actions. Yeah, that adds up quickly. Next up, A4, Collateral Ticket. When the battle starts, Jade's action is advanced by 50%. Pretty good overall. I don't really have much else to comment on it. It allows you to get your skill off immediately, which is very important, so. A6, Asset Forfeiture. Each stack of the talent's pawned asset additionally increases Jade's attack by 0.5%. So once again, let's remember, 50. So with this, you can get an additional, what is that, like 0.25% increase in your attack? So looking at this, this is once again rewarding you for getting your talent and rewarding you for getting the things that you want to get, and you're going to be getting either way. I really like this. It makes Jade stronger, and once again, it can make Jade easier to build if you have a specific setup in mind that you want to do. Overall, really like this. It plays well into her primary mechanic. That is, once again, a very nice trace. All of Jade's major traces are honestly pretty good, surprisingly. I quite like how they work out. I quite like how they play into each other. The worst one can probably be considered Collateral Ticket because it only works once. However, a 50% action advance is extremely high, and when her main thing is she wants to make sure she gets her skill off as soon as possible, I actually don't think this is awful. Plus, you can run her without speed then in most cases, and hey, you are probably still going to be able to get that off. Overall, super good, really like it. These are really nice traces that we can kind of talk about later, but they all play in super well, which is kind of surprising to see from an Erudition character, I've got to be honest. If you want more thoughts on that, go watch the evolution of Erudition. So now we can scroll down here to Eidolons. Now, in the Eidolon video that we did a while ago, people told me we got something a little wrong. First of all, that E1 is in fact very, very good, because you are generating consistently more charge, and it is a significant amount in the Jade player's experience. Comboed with that, E6 also means you are going to be able to generate even more charge. It literally doubles it, apparently. So I did not know that. I did not know how good that was for Jade specifically. I apologize. That is pretty good, actually. Comboed with all the other Eidolons, this is honestly really good, and it makes Jade into a complete machine for regenerating her charge, even without the use of a DPS. The nice part is that if you have a good DPS who can attack a lot, oh my god, you're going to turn Jade into a machine gun. That is horrifying, and at the same time, deeply intriguing. So, when talking about which Eidolons I would personally consider, I would say E1 is very, very high value. E2, not very good. It is nice because it makes building the character easier. However, for things like this, I vastly prefer when they are actually built into the kit naturally, rather than being locked behind an Eidolon. That really makes it feel a lot more like a kind of kick in the face, and it really just doesn't provide the same value at that point. Moving down to E4, E4 is honestly not bad, just because defense ignore / shred, very, very good if you can get it to stack. I don't know many situations where you're going to have a consistent source of defense down on Jade teams. I could be wrong, of course, and once again, the nice part about this game is that if you get this Eidolon, that automatically means it opens up more creativity for you. But overall, it's okay. I could see it being helpful, but I can't see it being helpful for everyone. Last but not least, E6, definitely very, very good. So, in terms of which Eidolons I would personally recommend, E1 and E6 are at the absolute top of the list, with everything else being pretty inconsequential. And that's unfortunate because getting to E6 requires you to get everything else, so I would mainly focus on E1, which is a very nice damage increase with 32 additional % from her follow-up attack, as well as the ability to generate even more charge. I really like this. This is really, really good, so if you are a Jade player, this is the Eidolon you should be looking for. It'll also open up many new opportunities for teams and different sort of setups. Alright, so that's Jade's whole deal kinda covered. So now let's actually have a bit of a chat about Jade. This character is pretty interesting for the fact that she did not have a belonging place in this game or the meta for quite a while. She was good in Pure Fiction. I will never deny she was good in Pure Fiction, but she was lackluster in Memory of Chaos, and she was lackluster in Apocalyptic Shadow. She simply did not provide enough value in either of those two game modes to really make an impact, quite frankly. The interesting part about Jade is that she has seen a lot of different ways to use her, and I think what's interesting about that is the creativity of players, that they will find different ways to make a character succeed because they love the character. This same thing applies to 4 stars, but obviously 4 stars can be a lot more difficult. Jade is at least a 5 star, and with her sort of unique moveset, you can get really creative to try and make things work if you invest the time. Some of the interesting things that I have seen and heard about is, I remember I heard about somebody who did E2 Fei Xiao with a Jade as the sub DPS. For those of you who do not know, E2 Fei Xiao gets a charge of Flying Aureus for every follow-up attack. Jade generates a lot of follow-up attacks. Are you seeing the vision? This ultimately meant that Jade would get quite a few follow-up attacks off, and then Fei Xiao would get so many ults. Not to mention, Jade would still be providing pretty decent damage all on her own. If you have an E1 Jade in that scenario, that becomes even more impactful and even more dangerous. This is a combination that you can't make work without Eidolons, which is super unfortunate, and it kinda... I've talked about this before. It's sad that a lot of the creativity that people would love to see in this game is locked purely behind Eidolons, but this is still a very, very unique team, and it is apparently a very well-working one from what I was told. It was a team capable of zero cycling, and hey, Eidolons do that to a gamer, but either way, it's still impressive, so hey, good job. This is simply one use of Jade that I have learned about. Obviously, the most stock standard use of Jade is for the Herta. With Jade on the team, you do not have to build any speed on the Herta. I would not recommend building speed on the Herta to begin with, but you don't have to, because now Jade is all of your speed. There you go, you still get additional actions, and you are going to provide a lot of follow-ups for Jade, which in turn provides a huge battery source for the Herta. On this team as well, you can run Herta, Jade, and then Tribby, and you can actually skill Tribby instead, because Tribby is going to be attacking a lot, and the speed is pretty inconsequential either way, so hey, oh well. It still works out, you still get your charges, Herta gets her batteries, it works out very well. It ultimately still makes for a very good team. That is the most conventional example right now though. So I want to say a quick thank you to Nim for giving me a nice little checklist I can kind of look at here of different ways to play with Jade. I really do appreciate it because I had no idea what I was going to talk about for this section. So, there is of course the usage with Blade. Blade and Jade do make a very unconventional but useful pairing. With Jade's ability to consistently drain a part of Blade's HP, that means that he can get closer and closer to his charge limit, unleashing his follow-up attack. Similarly, this follow-up attack can hit multiple enemies, which Jade loves because that means she gets even more charge. She gets him closer to the follow-up attack, he follow-up attacks, gains her even more charge, she attacks again. It makes for a pretty good pairing ultimately. Not to mention, once again, speed. Speed is super nice, so now you can get your Blade to either like a 160, or you can build him on base speed, meaning you can invest in HP boots, which are very, very nice for Blade. The other most interesting use I've seen mentioned is you get an E1 S1 Jade, and you pair her with Ling Sha. Ling Sha can be a massive, massive battery for Jade. She attacks all enemies, she has a follow-up attack that will constantly attack, her ultimate can go off consistently, and then summon her follow-up attack. It is insane how many attacks Ling Sha can get out in a short amount of time, meaning Jade will generate charge like crazy. And if you have that E1, you are going to be doing a lot of damage with your follow-up attack. This is pretty interesting, and it allows for a more hyper-carry playstyle, because Jade will actually be your consistent main DPS, so you buff the ever-living hell out of her, but then Ling Sha is going to be your consistent battery, constantly giving you what you need to get that charge up. It's a very unique pairing that doesn't sound like it would work too well, but it really does, and it can do a lot of devastating damage. The last thing to talk about is, of course, Pure Fiction. She can run in Pure Fiction pretty well with most characters. Another interesting pairing can be Jade and Argenti. They will both attack almost everybody constantly, and once again, a lot of charge for Jade. She can pair well with Argenti, giving him that extra bit of damage, giving him that extra bit of speed, and then with your last slot, well, go crazy as per usual. Overall, Jade possesses a unique moveset that is very limiting in some regards, but at the same time has a lot of uniqueness to it that can create for situations unlike any other, meaning you can use her in ways that you wouldn't be able to use any other character. This is something that's honestly invaluable in a way. It is super unique, it is super fun to see different ways to expand on the same tired character designs, and Jade does that really well. It may not be flashy, it may not be popular, but it can work. And it can work if you're willing to try and invest in it as hard as you can. And that's the beauty of Jade. A lot of people will not appreciate her for what she can do, and rather what she doesn't do, or how she's not anybody's preferred option in a lot of cases. But Jade really does have a pretty unique style that is unique to her and can do a lot if you're willing to find out. And that, I really like that. That is beautiful to see. Thanks again, Nim. I really had no idea what I was doing there. Alright, with that kind of figured out, let's now go talk about Jade's ideal build and teams. Now, I've kind of already done the whole, these are all your unique teams and all these wacky, kooky ideas. So instead, we're actually just going to go over the very baseline teams and very baseline concepts behind Jade. I'm going to be honest. I will say, I will still give you the relic loadout as good as I can. We've already covered most of what you guys are going to be interested in at this point, so this probably won't be too long. So, let's talk about light cones. Now, here's the thing, is that Jade's light cone is shockingly still the best for her. So Jade actually receives the most benefit from her signature light cone. With how Sparkle has been replaced and how Anexa's is technically worse than Herta's in a lot of situations, I'm glad somebody can still make use of their signature. This is overall going to be your best option. However, it does not provide such a substantial boost that you would want to go out of your way to get it if you already have Jingyuen's cone. Now, it does provide completely different stats and completely different bonuses, so it might still be worth investing in, but it's not an absolutely enormous damage boost. If you do not have either of these options, your next best option is, very unfortunately, the Battle Pass light cone of Today is Another Peaceful Day. I really hate that for a lot of these, the Battle Pass light cone is the ideal option. I'm very annoyed by that, but that is unfortunately how it works, so that's your next best option. After that, you are probably gonna want to go with Genius's Repose. This is really not great, but that's gonna be a better option since you'll probably be able to kill enemies fast enough. This is going to be focusing probably more on pure fiction, though. After that, every other option is just really not great. So, unfortunately, I don't love Jade's light cone options, and it really does feel like you would prefer to have the signature on this rather than any other option. A lot of other characters can kind of get away with not having the exact signature. Jade is less so that case. In terms of relics, once again, Poet of Morning Collapse makes a return as one of the best sets for a lot of Quantum characters, and just quite a few characters in general. Poet of Morning Collapse gives a massive damage increase, and it gives 32 crit rate if you're playing below a certain speed threshold. Now, Jade doesn't really need speed, because as we remember, she gets an action advance of 50%. She can probably still get her skill off in most cases. This is absolutely huge, meaning that you are going to be rewarded pretty heavily in your build, so you can focus on, building up the substats that matter a bit more, and you also get 10% increased quantum damage with Poet of Morning Collapse. Now, your other options do include a lot of the follow-up sets, or you can do Genius of Brilliant Stars against quantum weak enemies. This will give you even more defense ignore, and if you ever E4 comboed with another source of defense ignore, then you're going to be getting a lot more, and it might actually be worth it to overpower any other option. Overall though, I would say get the Poet set. That is going to be your best option by a pretty healthy amount, but if you just don't feel like it or you have no good pieces for it, you can mix and match, and you can just go with one of the traditional follow-up sets like Ash Blazing Grand Duke. Moving on to her best planars, yeah, I'm gonna be honest, there really isn't a substantial difference here. Just use the best one you have that slightly helps her. So if you are going to be using her exclusively in pure fiction, and you're using her with another erudition, Izumo is definitely the best. Otherwise, Sigonia is really helpful. Duran is super helpful if you're going to be getting follow-up attacks constantly. And then Inert Celsoto is just like a safe option that will still do decent damage. I'm going to be honest, the plan art does not matter, just pick substats. As long as you don't pick the one that gives you like max HP increase as a DPS, you are fine. You are so good, actually. Just focus on getting your substats. And lastly, we can talk about synergies. So, like I said, Blade, Lingsha, Herta, any sort of character like Tribby, Cypher, Gaucho, any of them can really be helpful for Jade, especially since you will not often be running Jade as your primary DPS, except for like in Pure Fiction. Your best team, pretty conventionally, is gonna be with the Herta. You're gonna want the Herta, Jade, Tribby, and then probably Lingsha just to generate a little bit extra stacks. Now, if you want to do Jade as your primary DPS, again, I would really recommend having some Eidolons. But then, you could do Jade, you could have Lingsha as your sustain. You're probably going to want Tribby again. And then, you can either have Blade as your sub DPS, you can have an action advancer, kind of like a Sunday. He'll get you closer to your ultimate, he'll get you more energy, which is always helpful. Or you can once again do somebody like Cypher, who is going to be able to take advantage from the constant damage output to increase her tally. She's also going to be able to contribute to it pretty regularly if you have a well-built Cypher, since she will be attacking very often. These can all be pretty interesting and useful combinations. There is probably one I've missed that is still pretty good, but like I said, Jade has a pretty set-in-stone best lineup right now, and it is definitely going to be with the Herta. I definitely encourage a lot of experimentation with the character though, especially if she is one of your favorites. That is kind of the beauty of this game, is that you can really make a lot of interesting lineups if you invest hard enough, and Jade really does prove to be the epitome of that, even though I feel like most players really wouldn't expect it. Jade following the follow-up archetype has really been something that I didn't expect, but it is honestly really nice because follow-ups are almost always going to be universally helpful, meaning a lot of characters can make use of her in those specific teams. It is very strange. Jade is just very strange in general, and that's without even touching on her lore, which is a whole other thing. Like, oh my goodness, we would be stuck here for a while. Overall, I quite like Jade. She is a very unique and interesting character. I don't absolutely love her in the story right now, but, you know, she also got one chance to kind of show what she was made of, so I really hope she gets more than that in the future. And yeah, and that brings us to the end of the video. This was a little bit all over the place to make. I'm gonna have to cut out a lot from this. But anyway, I really hope you guys enjoyed this. Once again, this was a reward because of the Aeon tier on my YouTube membership, so hey. So if you would ever like to see a video like this about your favorite character, make sure to go do that, and I will see you guys next time. Alright, bye-bye.